So today we're diving deep into the raw emotion of the Psalms, specifically chapters 10 through 18. And we're not just looking at some ancient poetry here. This is like a roadmap, one that takes us from a place of just total despair all the way to this powerful declaration of hope and victory.
And it all kicks off with this question from Psalm 1:3. I mean, how human is that? It's a cry that you can hear echoing down through the centuries. It's that feeling of being completely and utterly alone, looking up and just feeling like nobody's listening. This one question, it just perfectly sets the stage for the whole journey we're about to take.
So our journey starts with what we're calling a cry in the dark. This is that moment where the psalmist is just wrestling with that universal feeling of being abandoned, being crushed by injustice and feeling like God is just gone, hidden, right when you need him most.
And for the psalmist David, this isn't just about him feeling bad. He's in agony because he's afraid that if he fails, it's not just his reputation on the line, it's God's. He thinks people will mock the God he trusts. I mean, that's a whole other level of spiritual pain.
And this is so, so important. If you have ever felt this way, you are in really good company. This feeling of despair, it's a totally normal part of the human experience, even for people that we think of as, giants of faith.
I mean, just look at this list. Job, Moses, Jeremiah, Elijah. These are absolute titans of the faith, and every single one of them at some point felt completely lost and abandoned. But, and this is the key, after they passed through that fire, they all looked back and recognized that God had actually been right there with them the entire time. So, what starts as this really personal cry for help, it blows up into something much bigger, a societal crisis. The Psalms start to describe a world where the very moral fabric, the thing that holds everything together, seems to be ripping apart. It begs the question, what do you do when the foundations of society start to crumble? Now, when the psalmist talks about foundations, don't think about stone and mortar. He's talking about the moral order, the shared principles of justice and truth that are supposed to be based on God's law. This is the very ground the righteous are supposed to build their lives on. And when those foundations start to shake, you see two very different paths people take. On one side, you've got the wicked, who take advantage of the weak and basically live like God doesn't even exist. But on the other side, you have the righteous, who grieve over the injustice and put their trust completely in God, fearing him with a deep sense of reverence, not terror. So what do you do when you're faced with a crumbling world? I mean, some people might say, just run, head for the hills. But the psalmist offers a totally different way forward, the path of integrity. It's not about where you go, it's all about how you choose to live right where you are. And this question from Psalm 15, it really gets to the heart of it all. In a world that feels so corrupt, who is it that can actually live in God's presence, in that holy place? The good news is, the psalmist doesn't just leave us hanging. He gives a really clear answer. And here it is. It's basically a profile of what it means to live with integrity. We're talking about someone who acts with justice and speaks the truth. Not just with their lips, but from deep down in their heart. Someone who doesn't tear others down, who keeps their word even when it costs them, and who shows compassion to the poor. These aren't just vague ideas, they're real, concrete actions. Okay, but how do you actually know if you're on this path? What's your compass? Well, the guide for this entire journey of integrity is something that's described as absolutely pure and trustworthy, the words of God. Oh, I love this metaphor from Psalm 12. Just picture it, silver being melted down in a super hot furnace to burn off all the impurities. And the number 7 here, in that culture, that symbolized completeness, absolute perfection. So what he's saying is, God's words are seen as 100% pure with nothing fake mixed in, a perfect standard to live by. And all of this journey through the dark, choosing integrity, it leads us here to our final climactic section. It leads to a fortress of hope. So when he's at his lowest point, when the world is closing in on him, the psalmist doesn't just, ask for help. He starts defining his relationship with God through a series of these incredibly powerful metaphors for what a protector is. First up, my rock. Just picture that. In a world that feels like shifting sand with enemies all around you, a rock, that's your solid ground. It's the one place you can stand firm and not be moved. And then he builds on that. God isn't just a rock, he's a fortress. Now we're talking about a place of ultimate safety, a stronghold that's been designed for defense against any attack that could possibly come your way.
Next, it gets even more personal. My shield. See, this isn't some distant wall. This is right there with you, on the front lines, actively protecting you from the direct hits, from the arrows that are aimed right at you. And finally, we get this incredible phrase, my horn of salvation. In the ancient world, an animal's horn was a symbol of its strength and its power. So this isn't just about defense anymore. This is about having the power to actually achieve a decisive victory. And this is the result. This is what deliverance looks like. From that tight, suffocating grip of his enemies, David says he's brought out into a spacious place. Just feel that for a second. Going from being trapped to this wide-open space that symbolizes ultimate safety, peace, and the kind of freedom that only comes when you're rescued. And here is the absolute kicker. After all this, after he honestly looks at his own integrity and his own achievements, David doesn't pat himself on the back. Not at all. He attributes every single success, every victory, entirely to the grace of God. So we've gone on this incredible journey, right? From that desperate cry of how long, all the way to this declaration of God as a rock and a fortress. This ancient text maps out a path to a spacious place of safety and peace. So the question I want to leave you with is this. In the midst of our often chaotic and crumbling world, where do you find yours?